Jason, thanks for joining us again.
Good morning.
Next on today's menu is Gibbon Slacklines. And I mean, I first came across Gibbon a fair few years ago now, and I actually have pretty much one of their original Slacklines upstairs. However, just from having had a quick chat to you, I realized how woeful my knowledge is of how this kind of like what felt like niche and relatively esoteric activity has now flourished into a sport of its own. And my one, individual slackline from the range is now being replaced by, fun lines, gib lines. Tell me more.
Yeah. There's all sorts. Yeah, I mean, there are literally professionals out there. I don't think we've got any in the UK, but in Europe, it's really quite a thing with all the competitions and so on. I mean, it's fantastic fun activity for everybody. From sort of family through to these pro guys who are just doing unbelievable tricks on the bouncy lines, and right through to the extreme high liners as well. Yeah, so I mean, I was like you when we first started getting into this. I thought it was sort of relatively simple, small, discreet, tiny niche sort of thing. I thought it'd be a nice little add-on, a bit of fun. Actually, it's becoming quite an important part of the business, and we're sort of scrabbling around now to get stock to keep up with it. So that's absolutely fantastic. We're really pleased about it. So just in case people don't know, I mean, this all evolved out of slacklining with chains and climbers tape back in Yosemite, back in sort of early 80s. It sort of went on to the tensioning straps that you often see on the side of trucks, but then Gibbon have come along and developed it, and this is another connection. Tapes and so on, they actually approach it, quality, strength and so on, in a very similar way to the climbing companies. So when I started talking to them, it was quite a sort of revelation, a moment of, oh wow, they really think about it in the same way. So in terms of ultimate strength, proof loading, testing, quality assurance and so on, standards, these are all tested to and exceed the German TÜV standards for tape products and toys. There's a lot of similarity, so I really liked how the connection went from, the early days climbing. I can certainly remember slacklining around back in the day, dare I say, in Boo and places like that. It's come sort of full circle back to, it's a lot of fun, it's a nice business, but it's still got, a real connection to climbing, and the way climbing equipment is produced and so on. So it's really a nice thing to have in the business now.
So what do you think for an ad hoc person who's looking at just getting into it, which of the particular lines from the range would you recommend?
Sure, yeah. So there's a series of lines. So if you've got reasonable balance, which should be you, Rob, of course. You might go for the classic line. So I've got one just in front of us. So 2-inch webbing, it's sort of broad enough to, you can stand on it, comfortably in bare feet and so on. There's not too much stretching the line at all, so it's not too bouncy. So you can tension it up between your trees and pretty quickly, you can get into it. If you're thinking more about the family, and this has been a big thing for Gibbon apparently during the past year with lockdown and so on, activity in the back garden or activity when you're out traveling and camping. They do one called the Fun Line, which is again a nice broad tape, not too stretchy, but it's actually got printed on it sort of a rubberized texture. So it's nice and grippy as well, so for young feet, just try to find the way, that's a nice friendly one for the family to go for. If you're traveling and you want to throw one of these things just in your backpack, there's a sort of more compact set called the Traveller set. So that's just 1.5 inch tape. And then you're onto the extreme stuff. So just happen to have this one here. They call this one the Surfer Line. So that's like a super extra long one. Standard length of these things is 15 meters. That's 30 meters. So the thought with that is the idea, I mean, you've got to check this online, is you can really get a sort of swing going with it, and that sort of feeling of carving down the wave. Yeah, that was happy times, and get going with it like that. And then for the real extreme people, the set they use in the competitions and so on is what they call a jib line. Jib as in tricks, jibbing around, yeah. So this has got really a lot of stretch in it, so you can really get a bounce going. So that's how they get the power to get into all the flips and spins and all the rest of it.
Well, it would suffice to say I now know a lot more about slacklines than I did 5 minutes ago.
Excellent, yeah. I suppose worth mentioning, you know, there's quite a few accessories come with it as well. Very well worth having are some of the sets come with them, but also available separately are what they call tree huggers. You know, so literally a thing to wrap around your tree, because when you tension the line up, you know, there's really quite a force in there, you know, so you don't want to cut the bark of the tree, you know, particularly if you've got one spot you're going back to again and again. If you cut the bark of the tree, that's not at all good for the tree. So protection is good news. There are also freestanding sets, you know, so you can have those in gymnasiums and so on, you know, so in the climbing wall, great thing for a fun warm up or warm down. And there are also kind of A-frame rigs, so you can stake it out on flat ground, you know, on a football field or something like that. So
I'm presuming
screw the thing into the ground and there you go. So wherever you are, you know, you don't necessarily need trees or a cliff.
Something for everyone, and arriving, you say, within hopefully the next month or so.
Well, fingers crossed. Yeah, we've got a fair bit of stock in now, and it's starting to find its way out into the shops. If the transportation gods are good to us, we should have a lot more next week actually, and then that'll start to find its way
I say
out.
this conversation's revitalised my interest, not least because it's so sunny outside today. The idea of just being outside doing anything is really appealing.
I'm trying not to think about it. I can see the blue sky from here.
Yeah, well, thanks for taking us through those, Jason, and look forward to catching up soon, in reality, hopefully.
Yeah, God, that'd be amazing. I'll bring a slackline.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers, Rob.